around the country. Now, this issue with homelessness in LA is out of control. Los Angeles is one of the rundown cities in America. Their homeless issue is so bad that the mayor is calling for a international, like a national emergency, right? They want to treat this like a hurricane and treat it like that because she had laid aside $1 billion for this issue. But it's so much homelessness. I was literally watching the news, and it was these incredible business owners that have to leave their business because these homeless drug addicts literally put stuff on fire and burn their building down, the business down. So they were just interviewing people from California, from LA, and they're just everywhere. Blocks of homeless people. The homeless people have flooded the downtown area. Have literally have flooded the downtown area, and people are spending a lot of money for apartments and spending thousands of dollars for apartments, and they are literally, and I'm saying this live on YouTube, they are literally taking over the city. Taking over the city. I can't tell you enough that hardworking Americans have to deal with robbing and people getting high and want to get that rock. And I've seen so many people that live in these beautiful apartment buildings and their food getting taken by Uber Eats and Grubhub, etc., because these homeless people have to survive. And it's very difficult. It's going on in these states where people can't even sell their homes because in regular residential areas, there are having a tent camp or a homeless camp where they're on regular streets or regular residential areas where people can't even hardly, you know what I'm saying, can't even hardly sell their home because home buyers do not want to buy a home with homeless people because they typically commit crime. And they were talking about how the robberies is up, shoplifting is up. I was even reading some parts of California that Walgreens have to put chains and locks on the food. Most of the product, they have to put chains and locks on it. And if you want to get an ice cream, a chocolate ice cream, you have to ask the worker and they have to page it over the intercom for assistance so you can get an ice cream. Do you know how difficult that is when you want to go in the store? You know how you go in the store, you got to get in and get out, but you have to go there and everything is locked down. It is so challenging. And this is a problem for these states that say they are so-called liberal, they're so-called blue or whatever, but they are infested with homeless issues. And this is not right. This is not right. And the governor, the mayor, the president, all of these, the county, have failed these people. And people like myself and our brothers and sisters that live in California, they want to work and survive. They don't want to have to go through all of this homeless people on the street begging for money or stealing or robbing them. They don't have to go through that. This is insane. And so when I saw that in California, I looked at the data. It's one of the worst cities in the country with homelessness. It is so out of control. And it's been going like this for the last decade or so, but now it's terrible. And it's not all people that are on drugs and say they just don't want to do nothing. These are regular Joes and regular people that was renting and COVID hit and rent went up and or wages not keeping up with the high rent costs. Taxes is through the roof because a lot of these landlords, people think they have to pay a lot in property taxes because California is so expensive. They raise the taxes are through the roof. And so who's going to pay for it? You as a renter, you have to make sure that that rent is paid because most of your rent have to go towards their mortgage and their tax bill. And if they keep increasing the tax, it goes right back on the renter, you. It go right back on you. And if you only making, let's say, $19, $20 an hour, if you are making that much, you can't afford a 1 bedroom apartment almost about $2,000-3,000. That's a lot of money, and you cannot afford that. And the average family can't afford that amount of rent. So what do? They lose their apartment, they get evicted, they go on the street, and they just get into a tent. The most people that's on there do not want to be on the street. They have no choice. They can't afford the rent prices. And then when you try to do shelters, the shelters are overrun. Then now you got the migrant issue. So the whole system is just broken. But I also believe that when I was watching and doing my research, and I was looking at other parts of the country like Texas that have, low homeless rates, right? And how they, in some parts of Texas, have low homeless rates, and how they address and handle and tackle this issue. I personally believe that California needs to look at other parts of the country and see how they are handling this issue when it comes to homeless people. It is a lot when it comes to that. And when like a landlord, when they have to do this, like a regular landlord, I'm not talking about a corporate type of landlord that you have hundreds of properties. I'm talking about a mom and pop type of landlord. This is your property. You may only have one or maybe two. You depend, and most of the time you have a mortgage, and it's like a rental property, and then also you have taxes. It is so difficult because when COVID hit, a lot of landlords, some of them are on the bridge, and some have lost their property because the tenant stopped paying rent. And then by the time rental assistance happened, you have already been falling behind. Some people didn't even qualify for rental assistance, and in some parts of the country, rental assistance dried up. So when I look in the comments, and I'm seeing a comment here, one of my viewers are saying, "I am a landlord," and I'm going to see right here. That's actually a member, and they said this: "I am a landlord. The prices keep going up on us too, and some of us barely scraping by when we pay taxes and mortgage. Yeah, they're going through." And so when people say, well, they making all this money, no, I'm talking about an average. I'm talking about an average um, landlord. That's what I'm talking about. The average mom and pop type of landlord. And the average mom and pop type of landlord is going through this issue. They're going through it, and they have to pay all of these high taxes, and they have to pay a mortgage. So with that being said, it change need to happen. So I'm just so upset that California, because usually I think of California, hey, Hollywood, I want to be a star. It's celebrities, and it's just a shame that all of that poverty is there. And then when you look at Beverly Hills, some parts of California, the hood is not that far from Beverly Hills. They're literally traveling to Beverly Hills, robbing people, stealing from that, and going back to the hood. Because when people don't have any resources, you go where resources are. And if you can't have a regular job, what do? You will go and steal from that community. And that is what's going on. And a lot of people are moving from California. They are not, they're moving from that area. They're moving to areas like Florida or Texas. But even Florida and Texas are almost on the break, are dealing with a crisis too in Florida because of the high rent, because these places that used to be cost was low, when people flood to an area, the prices jack up. That's what happened in Texas. When I first moved here, you can get you a 1 bedroom apartment, maybe about $700, $800, $900 when I moved in about 2017. That have shifted now. In a good area now, you're paying almost $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month. Still kind of reasonable compared to other parts, but Texas is going up on the rent. Like the rent is going up everywhere, because if an area, if it's known to have cost of living is low, and everybody flood to the area and start getting apartments and start moving, then the prices go up. You know what I mean? The prices go up. But when I look at a place like California, it's very sad, and they criticize, Republicans and all of that. But California been run by Democrats all since I've been knowing California have been run by Democrats, right? I don't think they had a Republican governor. You have to go back in the 80s. I can check the data, but their policy have not worked. I mean, it's so many poor people, and a lot of businesses in California are fleeing the state because of the high crime. And the only reason why California is like a good place or have a lot of revenue coming in is because of the studios, because of Hollywood movies and etc. But it's so sad when I saw the story. I was so disheartened. I was hurt to see that. I was hurt to see people that are working and have worked in California and own businesses. It's difficult. And one of the guys was saying, I was watching him on the news. He said at one point our insurance was like $2,500 a year. He said now the insurance went up to almost about 20 some $1,000s a year. Because if burglary is starting to happen and people start filing all these claims on their policy, it drives up your everything go up. Your monthly payments go up. So if you live in an area like, say for instance, you have a car and it's known for a lot of carjackings or car accidents, your premium going to be high. Not because you just a bad driver, it's because of the area and the demographic that you live in. It's so sad. And everybody, good people are being affected. So you have a business or whatever, and you getting drived out. You getting frozen out because you can't afford to keep up. And not only like regular mom and pop places, you got some parts of California and San Francisco, I believe, that real businesses like Walgreens, these big brands, are fleeting because of crime, because of shoplifting. And if you keep shoplifting, then the average American, the average consumer, right, have to pay extra because of because of the shoplifting. So this is why areas like Chicago, LA, and many of these major cities are losing Walmart and these big stores because of the high shoplifting. And it's so difficult that the company is losing billions, and it's rarely for them to make a profit. So what do? They leave the area. And that affects the community, affects them in jobs. It affects that community to have groceries, good produce. And now that forced that family to go back to the regular corner store with bad expired produce. So when we look at LA, it's very disheartening. And I don't see a lot of creators talking about the issue and bringing awareness to the issue. It's creators just living there now that don't go to a city council meeting, don't talk to their mayor, don't bring awareness or any of that, because it is so sad that California, LA is like the wild, wild west, and it's infested with urine and feces and bad people. And it's so sad. And hopefully one day that place get a leader and also leaders in all departments that's really not just throwing money, but throwing money at a major solution and saying, hey, let's have this solution for the people. Let's have the solution. Even in New York, they're dealing with a crisis now. They have already had homeless people, but now it's even worse because now you got so many people that with the migrants and or whatever, it's and they don't have room for them anymore, so they're just laying on the street. They're literally sleeping on concrete. Compared to the regular people that have already been sleeping on concrete, now it's most of a crisis. So now you have people in New York that are saying, hey, this city is looking like California. What is going on? It's a huge problem. You can't tell me when they want to give us the POCUS, for us to be secure against COVID, they automatically qualify for anybody that wanted to get it. You can get it. Boom. Now that we have this same crisis, we don't have that mindset. Okay, let's have a solution. Let's do an emergency. Let's build buildings. Okay, since a lot of people are not working in these offices downtown, we're gonna transition this into housing for those that do not have housing. We're gonna train them, get their credit up, get their money up, so they can go and be here temporarily, but go into other areas of whatever. They can just be able to survive, have some type of temporary shelter. They don't want to do that. They don't want them in the area. So now they just go to particularly downtown, and regular people that want to have businesses and all of that, they leave because some of these homeless people, not all, but some are very bad people, and they hooked on these type of drugs, and they start these fires, and it burns up what you work for. And a regular business, once you have a business, and you have a fire, even if you have insurance, it takes months for you to get a return. Then you have lost so much money, then you have a mortgage or rent to pay. Now you got to just go because you just out of business because of the issue of that city, the area that you live in. Is so sad. When I look at this, and I'm not trying to um and I'm not trying to be mean, but the governor of that state is a terrible governor because I judge you how you treat the unhoused. I judge you by the levels of poverty. If your homeless rate is up greater than the national index, you are a terrible governor. And I understand the mayor of LA. I understand her. She just got elected. This is an issue, and it's bad for her because you can't change this issue without the help of the state, without the help of the county, without the help of the federal government. It's like it's a lose-lose situation because LA, the city council, can't tackle that issue alone. They can help, but you're going to need help from all levels of the government to help with this issue. It's a very sad issue that when you can drive in some parts of California and you seeing these tents, you seeing people getting high, you seeing people fighting, putting things on fire, breaking into businesses, and it's sad. So when I seen this, I said, "Wow, this is not like a conspiracy. This is facts." And when I talk to people in California, they was like, "Wiley, California have a huge homeless problem." And because I'm like, well, everybody want to move to California. Everybody like California. Everybody that I know is saying California is so good and California is so great. And I want to be a celebrity. I want to rub shoulders with these superstars. But then you look, it's run down. It's literally run down. And then it's folks that are paying a lot of money to live there. And what the heck? I look at this. If you're paying all this rent, right, to help your landlord got to pay all these property taxes. So I mean everything is up, right? What in the hell are you doing with the tax dollars? Why is it that it's a huge population of homeless people? Why is it that it's a huge population of drug addicts? What are the representatives are doing? Even in Portland, Oregon, I believe that it was a gentleman that want to sell his home, but the issue is you have people camped on the block on a residential area. And then when people see the homeless people there, they cancel the show. Don't nobody want to live where homeless people are housed outside. Not nobody with money with sense that want to buy their home, particularly their first time home buyer. They do not want to invest into a community where they just see a community of people in tents. So it was this resident. He was like, listen, I want to sell my property, but I'm having issues because I can't get nobody that want to come here. To even see the property because they see all these homeless people. So the realtor is texting them and saying, hey, they cancel because they see they don't feel safe. They don't want to get out the car because of the homeless people on your block. This is really sad. So this issue have to be addressed. It is sad because of Airbnb. That industry came and a lot of people putting their properties on Airbnb. It's a shortage of affordable housing. It's really, really a shortage. So this issue is just really sad. I'm looking at this issue all over the country, but I'm singling out like Portland, Oregon. I see you said Seattle, Washington, and also LA. I'm just really getting out what are these places are doing. Why is it that it's not a huge population of homeless people in Dallas, like compared to LA? Like, what is Texas? What are these southern states doing that their homeless rate is decreasing? If you look at the statistics in these northern parts of the country, homeless rates are increasing. Like, what is one part of the country is doing that is working, and what is this other part that you see an uptick? Like, what is the issue? So we have to understand that we need more job training, we need mental health treatment, and also we need people with good credit and etc. And then people need to make some average families, the wages are not keeping up with the rent costs, and I understand that. You have I'm going to say this in my close before I go to the subject, but you have in Florida, when I was watching Florida, and it was a couple, they said, well, they have to have roommates. So I think it was like 6 or 8 of them living in a 1 bedroom apartment. But the rent is so high. I believe that rent was about almost $4,000 or $5,000. And so now what they're doing in Florida and many parts of the country with high rent, about 6 people are moving in. It's sad. It is so sad. It's difficult because the average person cannot survive being living in a place by themselves. They can't do it. So you would have to get about 3, 4, 5 roommates, and y'all just got to just put a pallet or put some air mattresses or get you a whatever, and y'all just split the rent up. It's sad because the average person want to be in the house by themselves. They want to be able to have their own bed and their own privacy, but because of the high rent, instead of you being on the street, you would just share a place with 6, 8 other people. It's so sad. But this is the issue that is going on. People are going through, and it's not just poor people or low income people. You have some middle class folks that are going through as well that can't afford to keep up because again, the rent, the expenses, because you have the average family now, they have kids that's in daycare. You have high rent, and daycare is like almost like a car payment or a mortgage payment. Then you have your rent, then you have utilities, then you have healthcare costs. It's difficult to keep up. If you're a 2-parent household, in order to live comfortable, both of y'all got to be bringing in way more than $180,000 a year. You got to bring in a lot because if you want your kids, if you have your kids in daycare, and you live in a beautiful place, beautiful area, it's so much that you have to do to survive. They say exactly. My neighbor's got 3 or 4 adults living together. Yeah, that's definitely going on because of the high rent cost. It is so sad. Like if rent were to go up here 25, $3,000, $4,000, there's no way I can afford it. You know what I'm saying? That's my entire one of my income, my entire income, and then I will have to work doubles on my check just to have a savings and just to not to be completely broke. It's difficult because most people, they're spending more than 30% of their income on rent, way more than 30% of the income on rent. So this is why a lot of people, they rarely at them apartments because they working every day, doubles every day. It's some folks that work 2 jobs 7 days a week. I don't want to live like that. I don't. They said couples living together don't want to be together because of the cost of living. Yes, people are just forced to, hey, I don't like it like that, but rent is high, so we just gonna be together. Okay, it's sad. But when I saw the picture, when I saw this documentation on about LA, I immediately said, hey, I gotta talk about that. Those rent prices are, yeah, it's crazy. It's really, really crazy. And even if you say, hey, I want to be a property owner, I want to have a house, you pay a mortgage, but then a lot of people is losing their houses because of taxes, because their tax bill is through the roof. And if you keep falling behind on your taxes, you cannot, you know what I'm saying? If you keep falling behind on your taxes, you cannot live in that place. You will lose your property because of tax debt. You would get a lien, they will get your property or sell it, and you will lose your property because of that. So it's a lot of things that are going on with people, and it's just extremely sad that this is going on for folks. And we are praying for folks that they get it together, praying for people that that we can bring more money in. But this issue, it definitely needs to be talked about because this is an issue that all of America should be talking about. All right, so I'm gonna go to another subject here. I just had to bring that up because it's something that do need to be brought up. I had to talk about that. They said we should go on a rent strike like Canada. We should, because when you look at Canada, they did one on a rent strike because of the high cost. They did. They did. They did. And so, and God want us to get back to praying, get back to him, because this is foolish. This is foolish. This high rent don't make no sense. It is. It's crazy. Um, so, but in California alone, I can tell like the homeless is just out of control. Even, it's really, really out of control. I know Dallas, they're trying to tackle some issues with that. A lot of their shelters are overrun and they have these stupid rules. And they will penalize homeless people for sleeping on the train. And so, um, they supposed to pass something to help with that and help with the issue, and they tried to criminalize people for being on the corner begging for money, but they're trying to do that. But even this area, for what I've noticed in some parts of Texas, I've noticed that it is a little uptick. It's not like California, but if they don't handle it and get it together, it will be way worse than California, 100 times worse. Because you definitely gotta get it in. Because they tried to penalize the homeless for and try to give them fines, or they would get arrested if they're sleeping on the train or the bus. So you got to be very careful. You got to be very, very careful. It's a lot that is going on here. Now, I'm going to move on from that. I just had to talk about the homeless issue in LA. I want to get into this particular topic